Welcome to the Management Advantage. Last year we brought you a program on power line or pipeline right-of-way management. We showed you some broad techniques on how you can improve the quality of your wildlife food found under these lines. Now this year we're going to take it one step further. We're going to show you how some utility companies are using chemical application to convert the species under these lines from undesirable hardwood brush to quality wildlife foods. Now, after the break, we'll be joined by Todd Horton from BASF. He's a technical representative and he's going to walk us through some steps on how you can shift your species from this to quality wildlife food. Stay tuned, we'll be back in a moment.
Dodge presents The Management Advantage, gaining the advantage through proper land management, with your host, Chuck Sykes, who is dedicated to sound wildlife management practices and principles that will help both sportsmen and landowners get the optimum potential from their land. Sponsored by Plotmaster, BASF, the Whitetail Institute of North America, Horton Vans, Motorola, Kershaw Knives, and Easy Go.
Folks, this is a prime example of what we want to show you today on taking undesirable hardwood brush and converting it over to productive wildlife habitat. How are we going to do it?
Chuck, we're going to come in here with a low volume arsenal herbicide backpack application. We're going to use a selective stem application technique. We're going to come in here and we're going to remove this undesirable woody vegetation, and we're going to let the sunlight hit the forest floor, and we're going to see a lot of grasses and forbs come in right behind where this hardwood brush is, and it's going to benefit a lot of different wildlife species.
You can look in here, and I mean, you're shading out everything. There's very little, if any, wildlife food value content in there.
Chuck, that's right, and the utility has a lot of objectives he's trying to achieve out here. He's coming in on someone else's property. His number one goal is to reduce this woody vegetation so it doesn't get up into the lines and trip the electricity out at your house, so you can run your air condition and turn your lights on. He also has an environmental stewardship responsibility where he needs to come in and do the right thing for the wildlife out here, because this is their home, and also do the right thing for the landowner. And this utility is going to use arsenal herbicide with low volume mazapir based applications, and we're going to remove this hardwood vegetation and release a lot of desirable grasses and forbs on the right-of-way.
Well, folks, this is a good pre-application site so you can see the quality of the wildlife food here. All you got here is sweet gum, scrub oak, sumac, black cherry, and over the next couple of days we're going to show you some sites where through herbicide application has taken this undesirable brush and created quality wildlife habitat.
Chuck, what we're seeing here is the first step of a six-step process under an integrated vegetation management program. Came in here, these trees, as you can see behind us, are real big. They're 15 to 20 foot tall.
Yeah, he's gonna have a hard time with that one right there.
Yeah, large diameter, and we got to get it down so we can get on top of it. Now what we've done out here is we've come in and you can see they're doing some mowing. They come out here with the heavy duty mowers and getting things down. Now these stumps that they've created here, they're going to re-sprout, and we know that. But under this six-step process, in year 2, we're going to come back in here with a low volume arsenal herbicide application, and we're going to take care of this woody vegetation. We've opened up this canopy now, the sunlight's going to hit the forest floor, and we're going to see a lot of forbs and grasses come in here, really create a nice wildlife habitat.
You're going to see a good flush of all the wildlife food coming back.
That's exactly right.
It is amazing how quick this wildlife food comes in and starts to take this spot over once you get a little sunlight in. I mean, bush hogging has done wonders, but it can't stop there.
No, it can't, Chuck, and what's going to happen on this line right here, this utility is going to come in now. They mowed this in January of this year, and as you can see, we got some pretty significant growth on the oaks and the hickories and the cherries out here. They're going to follow this up with a herbicide application. They're going to use low volume backpack applications of arsenal herbicide. They're going to target putting out a quart of arsenal per acre and 4 quarts of glyphosate,
which
same
is basically
thing,
Roundup
per acre. and they're going to try to maintain what they have. They've got, like you said, they got a lot of good forbs and grasses coming in here, but if this thing continues to go, we're going to have a canopy, and all this good wildlife food is going to go away.
Right. Well, this is the first step in starting to reclaim an area like this. You've knocked this brush down where it's out of the transmission line, so that was the first criteria.
Right.
All right, we've opened up the forest floor, and we've got greenbrier, blackberry, dewberry, ragweed, just too many to name the wildlife food that's coming back. But when you bush hog one stump, you got 10 more that's going to come back in its place.
That's right.
So without that arsenal application, you're going to lose it again.
You're going to lose it again, and you're going to actually create more of a problem than you started with. Chuck, let's take a look at this right here.
That's a pretty good example.
It's a real good example, and what has happened here is this utility has used mowing as part of their integrated vegetation management program. This brush was probably real tall, had a real nice stand of brush. They needed to get it down so that they could get the herbicides on it. If you don't follow that mowing with a herbicide application, this is what you're going to be left with just mowing.
Yeah, you got one stump and 20 sprouts.
And 20 sprouts, and you've really increased your stem density out here and moved away from the early succession type management we're looking for on a right-of-way.
Right, because with this, when it first started, there was one stem that big that went up 10 feet. Now, you've got a bunch type situation where you're covering more ground, you just drop the height of it down. So really, you didn't accomplish anything as far as the wildlife goes.
That's right. We started with one stump, and now we have 11 stems to deal with.
So that's the reason this utility has a 6-year rotation where it involves bush hogging first, then letting it sprout back like this, then coming back with a herbicide application, and following the steps along the way where you can keep this brush at a manageable level and also gradually convert it over to productive wildlife habitat. Folks, on today's Plotting for Wildlife segment, we're going to pick a new spot. It's what a lot of y'all are faced with. We're in some thin pines. We've got a little power line running through it. We're going to take our first attachment, which is a mower, and we're going to go in and actually pick a site to plant your plot. How many of y'all can use that piece of equipment right there on your property? It's the most powerful self-contained pull behind unit that's out there. It's got a 55-inch cutting area, 17 horsepower, can pull behind your ATV. Anybody can use it, and look what a job it does. I mean, that's a 3.5-inch sweet gum that's green that it popped off just like that. Now folks, on next week's Plotting for Wildlife segment, we're going to bring you to this same location. First step in food plot preparation, picked a site and we cleared everything off using this plot mower. Now we're going to bring a moldboard plow in next week, which is another fine attachment, show you how you can take this raw ground, start working it. We'll see you next week. All right, first step in this 6-year process is bush hogging. All right, they're through with this section bush hogging. What's next?
What's next is they're going to come in here next year with a low volume arsenal herbicide program, and they're going to take care of all this hardwood brush that's going to resprout.
Right.
We know it's going to resprout, and this utility has chosen to invest in the mowing operation to get it down, get on top of it, and come back in here and spray these resprouts next year.
All right, year 3 is nothing. You just leave it alone.
Right.
In year 4, the hardwood brush that you've missed is sprouting back out.
Right.
Come back in, real selective with your herbicide.
Sure, it's probably just going to be a spot treat, very low volume per acre, and it's just going to be a couple of little stems out here that we may need to get back on. And then in year 6, you're probably not going to have to do anything.
Well, I know Jennifer Dubose is a rep in this area that handles the chemicals to get to these crews. So let's go talk with Jennifer and see what her applicators are using to gain control of these sites.
All right.
All right, Jennifer, they've just completed bush hogging this power line, and before we go and take a look at some of the application methods, I want you to explain to everybody the types and rates of chemicals that they're using, and also some different application methods that they're using to gain control.
Well, with the species that we're dealing with that are going to come back on the right-of-way after that first mowing, the ones that we want to control, as well as the species that we're trying to release out there on the right-of-way for wildlife cover, we're going to be using a tank mix with Arsenal herbicide as a foundation.
Okay.
And the application methods can vary depending on what kind of right-of-way you have, whether it's, if you've got a real low density right-of-way, you can go in there with a selective stem application using a backpack or even a hydraulic application or a hydraulic tank mounted on
Which is basically on the back of a truck.
Right, mounted on the back of a truck where you've got the handgun, but actually still selectively choosing those stems.
It's not just a broadcast miss. Somebody's on the ground actually picking the stems that you want to eliminate.
Exactly. One thing that I do want to stress though, Chuck, is the quality of the application. Those applicators are out here making a decision on the right-of-way, which species they're going to be targeting and which species they're going to be leaving out there.
Right.
So it's important to have a quality application that can do that for you and get the benefits that those utilities are looking for.
All right, Todd, this line is on year 2 of the 6-year program. Explain what took place out here to get this sweet gum looking like this.
Chuck, earlier this spring, they came through here with a backpack crew using low volume Arsenal herbicide. And the objective here was to selectively remove this sweet gum, which has the potential to get in these utility lines. And they wanted to do it with a selective stem type application where they were targeting just the vegetation they wanted to control.
All right, so bringing the backpack crews in, you're selecting which species you want to take out,
right,
which is better for the wildlife, and you're also not coming in broadband spraying, which is more economical on the utility company.
Sure it is.
I mean, right here behind us, you can see what's coming back. We've got greenbrier, muscadine, and sumac, which was not sprayed because it's not going to get in the transmission line.
It's considered a non-line threatening species. It's not going to interrupt the electricity flowing through those lines.
So you can leave it as cover for the rabbits, food for songbirds, good bedding areas for deer, and nesting for quail and turkeys out in here on this line.
Yes. Chuck, let's walk right up here. I want to ask you a question about some of this bunch grass we have in here. And explain to me what benefit the bunch grass that we've left in here, what benefit it has for wildlife.
That right there, that cricket. It's good bugging areas for quail and turkeys. We've got a lot of insects in here. It's good nesting cover. And they need a certain amount of bare ground to dust in, pick gravel. So I mean, this has got it's got a whole nother set of benefits versus that right there. So you're creating 2 different habitat types right here in a 20-yard area under this power line, managing it the way that y'all are managing it.
So we've basically, what we've done by coming through here with this herbicide is we've removed the undesirable woody vegetation, and we really have a linear food plot right here.
You've got something that is very beneficial to the wildlife. It's economical for the power company, and it's a whole lot more aesthetically pleasing for a landowner.
Sure.
Welcome to this week's Outfitting 101 segment. The question that we're going to be asking today is, what type of stands am I going to be hunting from if I book a hunt at your lodge? Are you going to be stalk hunting? Are you going to be asked to climb 16-foot ladder sticks and get over in a little lock-on type stand? I'm a fairly agile fella, so I can handle most type stands, but are you physically able to do it, first of all? And second of all, are you comfortable doing it? If you're not comfortable getting in a 16-foot ladder stand, you need to make sure that lodge owner offers shooting boxes or ground blinds. Be sure and ask these questions. If you have a physical handicap or you're not comfortable hunting out of elevated stands, I highly recommend that you talk to your outfitter about that before you go, because a lot of hunting, especially down here in the South, is done from 16 feet ladders or lock-on type stands with ladder sticks. And you need to let that owner know that you're not comfortable doing that, and make sure that they have other methods for you to hunt. Now let's see how Water Valley answers the question of what type stands do you have. They've got a little bit of everything. They've got lock-on type stands with ladder sticks for you bow hunters. They've got 16-foot ladder stands. They've got tripods, shooting boxes, ground blinds. They have got a stand that will fit anybody's needs. Now folks, on next week's segment, If the guides have done their job putting these stands in the proper location, you're going to need game care facilities. So we'll see you next week. Todd, it looks like y'all carried this about as far as you can carry it. I mean, this is perfect.
What we're looking at here is the results of a 6-year integrated vegetation management program. And we've converted this site over from low quality hardwoods to lush herbaceous understory with a lot of flowering plants. Chuck, this utility has really taken the initiative and done something positive out here for the community, for the property owners that own this property, and for wildlife habitat. At BASF, we've come up with a program called Project Habitat, and it's a community relations program where the utility can take this information, the good vegetation management program they have here, and they can present that into their community and get some positive feedback. And we said at the very beginning, the number one objective for the utility forester is to keep the electricity flowing through these lines. This utility has taken that objective, they've achieved it as we can see here, but they've also done something good for wildlife and the community.
Well, y'all knew it was time. It's time for the hunt. And you knew it was going to take place on a power line. As a matter of fact, it's going to take place out of that very shooting house right there. I love utilizing my power lines when it comes hunting season. Now on a pretty day like today, there's fantastic hunting. But you let the weather turn bad and you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to the closest power line. Now the hunt that you're fixing to see takes place in Union Springs at Sedgefield. And I'm filming Bill Barrett one cold, dreary January morning. Well, that's enough about the pre-hunt talk. Y'all go to the hunt and we'll see you in a second.
Probably 125 or 130. That's a pretty good deer.
Dr. Johnson, one of the things we get over the phone a lot when these customers are calling in and talking to us is a lot of information how to maximize their food plots. They've made the decision to go out there and get involved in deer management, and they call in wanting to know how to get the best out of these plots. We've talked a little bit before about soil testing, but let's take some of the components that come out of a soil test and talk a little bit about lime as far as being probably the most important step that they've got to be careful of.
Okay. When you get your soil test results back, it's going to tell you three things. One of these is what is the acidity status of your soil, or the pH. Now to correct this, if it's very acid, is to add lime, which is ground agricultural limestone, which must be incorporated into the soil prior to planting.
The soil test will tell you how much of that to add.
It'll tell you how much to add, that's
okay.
right. And once you add this recommended amount of lime, that should last you 2 or 3 years.
Fantastic. Well, another component of that particular soil test that they've taken is going to be fertilization.
That's right. And the second thing you're going to find out from this soil test is the mineral, nutrient, or fertilizer status of your soil. In addition to that, as to what's there, it will tell you, give you a recommendation on how much fertilizer to add to make up any deficiency you might have. So it'll tell you how much you need and will prevent you from over-fertilizing or wasting fertilizer.
Y'all, native vegetation management is a great tool to produce quality wildlife food underneath your power line rights of way. And we've showed you today how some utility companies are going that extra step, even though their main goal is eliminating brush from getting in these lines. They have figured out a way by using some BASF products to not only accomplish this goal, but also make the land productive for wildlife and also aesthetically pleasing for the landowner. But y'all, native vegetation management is only a small portion of overall right-of-way management. Don't forget about your ag crops like clover fields, tufa fields, bicolor patches for quail. There's a whole host of things that you can do to take advantage of these openings that can produce a ton of quality wildlife food. Now folks, for more information on a hunted sedge field or information on Project Habitat by BASF, stay tuned to the end of the show and we'll have all their websites where you can get that information. And folks, right-of-way management is just one more way that we're helping you gain the advantage through proper management. We'll see you next week right here on the Management Advantage.
The Management Advantage, presented by Dodge, was brought to you by Plotmaster, BASF, the Whitetail Institute of North America, Horton Vans, Motorola, Kershaw Knives, and EasyGo.